All right. Thanks so much for being on this podcast. I appreciate it. First off, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into ASL interpreting.
Okay, hi. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to chat with you. My name is Shelley Hansen. I'm a nationally certified interpreter, and I started learning sign language when I was about 13, 14 years old. At my church, the youth pastor, he was not deaf. He was a CODA, a child of deaf adults. So he knew sign language because his parents were deaf. And he taught us a little bit of sign language. And he saw that I was interested, so he found me a tutor while I was in early high school. And then I started taking classes at a community college locally, Shoreline Community College over in the Seattle area. And it just kind of continued from there. I had no idea what it meant to be an interpreter or what a career in interpreting would look like. I just loved sign language, and it just so happened that I ended up being an interpreter.
hmm And so the kind of work that you're doing now as an interpreter, because I've seen a lot of interpreters that some work for the schools, others work for like several companies. What's sort of how do you sort of fit into that?
hmm Well, I have pretty much done it all. So I started out in the educational interpreting zone. I worked for the Edmonds School District for about 3 years and worked in the community at the same time so that I could reach a level where I could get certified. And once you're certified, you can start doing more community interpreting. Today, I am doing a lot of legal work. I'm Washington Court certified interpreter. I'm on their list. So I do a lot of court interpreting, lots of legal work, lots of medical work. I work for DSHS, Department of Social and Health Services. So I do lots of like social services type appointments. I sub in the school district just the teeniest bit. I work for entities throughout Washington State and then also across the country because I can do work remotely through video. So I do some of that as well.
hmm What is it like to sort of to prepare, because ASL interpreting takes a lot of work and preparation. So I'm curious what it's like for you to sort of prepare like every single day, day in and day out.
I think that you are a lifelong learner when you are an interpreter. You can always be researching about the topic if you know what it is that you're going to be going in to interpret about. If you are at an assignment and the term comes up that you're not sure of, you can always ask the person if they can clarify what that means. I think that the learning that you do throughout all the assignments that you're doing starts to accumulate. And so as time goes on, I don't have to prepare as much as I did earlier in my career because at this point I've had a lot of experience. And so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the content. But there's always resources out there for you to do some research if something comes up that you feel like, I'm not quite sure.
hmm Yeah, so like when it comes to, being a certified interpreter, what are the steps that go into that?
Well, when I got started, you just needed to get certified. That's a national organization. It's called the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. It's based in, I believe, Maryland. You needed to prepare to take a written exam. So you study for that. And then once you take that and pass that, then you can sit for the performance exam, which is a videotaped exam where you're doing some sign language from what you hear. You're interpreting into ASL. And then you watch the screen, and they've got a various different little scenarios with deaf people signing, and you voice interpret what they're signing into spoken English. And then that gets sent off and evaluated. And let's say 3 to 6 months later, you find out if you passed or not. Today, you also, before you can do that, you need to have a bachelor's degree. And at that time, the time when I got certified, there was no bachelor degree program available. There was just an AA program, which I did graduate from over at Seattle Central Community College. But now I went ahead and got my bachelor's degree in 2022 in Spanish, just because even though I had my certification and I've been able to work, I felt like I wanted to get a bachelor's degree as well, just so I was on par with my peers.
Mm-hmm. What has it been like doing sign language interpreting? I don't know how long you've done sign language interpreting, but
Well, I absolutely love it. It's fascinating work. It's always challenging. You're working with people, you're working with information, you're working with translating or interpreting content from one language into another language. It's intellectually challenging. It stretches your memory. It draws from a lot of background knowledge base in order to be accurate. You have to be monitoring yourself, making sure if you make errors that you let people know that was an interpreter error and you go back and you fix it. So there's a lot of monitoring going on. Plus, there's all that interpersonal stuff of being able to establish a rapport with the clients, being able to interact professionally, but also with empathy because things come up that are sensitive or difficult, trying to be respectful of everybody involved in the situation.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to talk to other interpreters or like up and coming ones and like have what have they told you about their experience?
Yes, I work with a variety of interpreters. We team when we go into an interpreting assignment that's long, like if it's over an hour and a half or so, like it's 2 or 3 or 4 hours or all day, we work as a team. We take turns every 20 minutes so that we don't wear out. It's fatiguing. So I talk with those interpreters and I have interacted with some of the younger interpreters as well. What I'm finding that it's been more difficult for the younger interpreters lately to pass their certification exams. As time's gone by, they've updated the certification exam. It's pretty rigorous, it's pretty challenging. And interpreters just sometimes struggle with passing it. They might take it several times and not pass it. So that is a challenge at the moment because we are starting to not have a large enough pool of interpreters. The pool of interpreters is starting to kind of shrink a little bit of who's actually certified and qualified in Washington state, but I think it's also a national problem.
Mm-hmm. But then how do you address that shortage?
They're trying very hard. The Washington legislature gave some money to a focus group to do some research. One of the issues is that when I went through school at the end of the 80s, I graduated in 89. So at that time, there was a program at Seattle Central Community College that had deaf students attending through Department of Vocational Rehab, DVR services. They had a program also going on at the same time. There was lots of support. That program shut down. I don't know what year, like let's say 2010. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what year. Since then, there's been no formal training in Washington State except for one community college program in Spokane. Spokane Falls Community College has an educational, so school interpreters only, and it's remote. You can do it remotely if you want to. But otherwise, we are sending interpreters mostly down to Oregon. Western Oregon University has bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and programs that interpreters can take. So, one thing is people are wanting to get back to having a degree program here in Washington State. They're talking about that. It would require money, and they're hoping to connect with a university, like a 4-year university somewhere in Washington State, so that people who are interested in being interpreters can study, 3, 4 years, get a bachelor's degree, and have a better chance at getting certified.
Mm-hmm. What have you learned in doing this kind of work? Is there anything that you sort of take away?
Oh my goodness. I've learned so, so much. I have interpreted for 21 baby deliveries. I have interpreted for federal court, all the way down to municipal court. I've interpreted for you name it in the medical field. I've interpreted for you name it in people's private lives, their home visits. What my main takeaway is probably how amazing and wonderful all the people that I interact with are. I have seen such incredible resilience, such incredible determination. I could go on and on about all the wonderful people that I have met and interacted with over the years. People who are deaf, hard of hearing, deaf with a variety of disabilities. I've seen many people pass away that I've interpreted with. I just have a tremendous respect, love, and appreciation for the deaf community.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, to wrap this up, what advice would you give to those up and coming interpreters, those young interpreters that want to do what you're doing?
I would recommend that you find a place where there is a good sized deaf population. So you need to go to a larger area, like a city or a university town or somewhere where there is a good population so that you can have a chance to do internships, so that you can get mentored, so that you can be able to go to deaf events in the community, so that you can really get consistent exposure to the wide range of deaf consumers that there are out there, plus mentors, so that you can have much more actual experience. I just feel like this shift toward remote learning, people learning online, taking classes online, joining meetings online, has its limitations. And I think that that shows up in the lack of skills, lack of knowledge that the interpreters are really coming away with when they go and try to get certified. So I think they need more socialization in the deaf community.
Mm-hmm. All righty.